Finally, she whispered, "You should leave, my daughter. Before it's too late." Sarah's heart pounded. "Mama Deborah, I know the pastor is doing terrible things. Please, help me." The older woman looked at her for the first time. And then, she broke down in tears. "He will kill you, just like he killed the others." Sarah shivered. Who? Who else has he killed?" Mama Deborah's lips trembled. "His other wives. The second wife, the vanished beauty." Nobody in the church talked about Pastor Emmanuel's first wife, Sister Florence. She was a beautiful woman, young and full of life. She was his favorite, the one who stood beside him when he first built the church. Then, one night, she disappeared. People whispered that she had run away. But Mama Deborah knew the truth. "She found out," Mama Deborah said, her voice shaking. Sarah leaned forward. "Found out what?" "That Pastor Emmanuel's power does not come from God." A chill ran down Sarah's spine. Mama Deborah wiped her tears. She tried to expose him. And then, she was gone. Sarah's heart pounded. Where is she now? Mama Deborah's eyes filled with terror. Buried under the church. The ritual room. Sarah felt sick. A body. Under the church. A dead wife. And no one had ever questioned it. She had to see it for herself. That night, she snuck into the church with a flashlight. She went to the back of the altar, where the pastor's private chambers were. And that was when she saw the trapdoor. She pushed it open and climbed down into the darkness. The air was thick with the smell of blood and death. Her flashlight flickered over the walls, revealing strange symbols painted in red. And then, she saw the grave, a shallow pit in the middle of the room. Sarah dropped to her knees and started digging. Her fingers scraped against something hard. Something cold. She pulled it out. A skull. And in that moment, the door slammed shut behind her. The pastor's wrath. The room was suddenly filled with whispering voices. The air turned icy cold. And then, she heard his voice. Sarah. I warned you. She turned, and there he was. Pastor Emmanuel. His face was calm, but his eyes were burning with pure evil. Now, you will join the others. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She had to escape. She had to survive. Or she would become just another lost soul buried under the church. Sarah was trapped. She had uncovered the terrible secret buried beneath Divine Grace Ministries, the grave of the pastor's first wife. But now, the trapdoor had slammed shut behind her. And Pastor Emmanuel stood before her, his eyes burning with something beyond human evil. You shouldn't have come here, Sarah. She could hear the sound of footsteps above, the murmuring of voices. The church was still full of people. If she screamed, would they hear her? Would anyone help? Or would they just keep singing and clapping, unaware that she was about to die beneath their feet? Pastor Emmanuel stepped forward, his white robe stained with red symbols. You think you are the first one to uncover the truth? Sarah backed away, her heart pounding. You think you are the first one to try and stop me? She hit the wall, trapped against the cold stone. You will not leave this place alive. With a flick of his wrist, the torches in the room burst to life, casting flickering shadows over the grave. And then she saw them, the others. Figures in hooded robes, standing in a circle around her. The elders of the church. Men and women she had prayed with, worshipped with, trusted. But now, they stood with knives in their hands. And Sarah finally understood. This was not just a church. This was a cult. And she was their next sacrifice. The first cut. Pastor Emmanuel pulled out a golden dagger, its blade glowing in the dim light. We do not kill for pleasure, Sarah. His voice was calm, almost gentle. We kill for power. Sarah's breath came in short gasps. You're a monster. He smiled. No. I am chosen. And then, he struck. The blade sliced across Sarah's arm. Pain exploded through her body. She screamed, falling to her knees as blood dripped onto the dirt floor. The elders began chanting, their voices low and eerie, filling the underground chamber with an unnatural hum. Sarah's vision blurred. She was losing too much blood. She had minutes to live. Unless she did something. The fire of revenge. With the last of her strength, Sarah's hand closed around a loose rock on the ground. And before Pastor Emmanuel could strike again, she swung it. Crack. The rock smashed into his head. The pastor stumbled back, blood pouring from his forehead. Sarah didn't wait. She grabbed his dagger and ran. The elders lunged at her, but she slashed wildly, forcing them to retreat. She ran to the wooden torches on the wall, knocking them over. Flames erupted across the ritual chamber, licking up the walls, spreading like judgment from heaven. The elders screamed as the fire swallowed the room. And Sarah ran for her life. She barely made it out. The fire spread upward, devouring the wooden beams beneath the church. Sarah burst through the back doors, coughing and gasping for air. The congregation inside was still singing, unaware of the hell burning beneath them. And then, the floor cracked. Screams erupted as the church began to collapse, fire bursting through the cracks like the gates of hell had opened. Sarah stumbled into the street, watching as Divine Grace Ministries crumbled into ash. The people ran, crying, screaming, confused. And Pastor Emmanuel was nowhere to be found. The evil lives on. For days, they searched the ruins. They found bodies, burned beyond recognition. They found the graves of the pastor's wives. They found evidence of the staged miracles, the stolen money, the deception. But they never found Pastor Emmanuel. Some said he burned to death. Some said he escaped. But Sarah knew the truth. She could still feel him watching. And she knew that one day, he would return. The town thought it was over. The church had burned to the ground. The buried bodies had been unearthed. The truth about Pastor Emmanuel's evil had been exposed. But Sarah knew it wasn't over. Because the pastor's body had never been found. An evil like his doesn't just disappear. The haunting begins. 2 weeks after the fire, strange things started happening. At night, people claimed to hear whispers near the ruins of Divine Grace Ministries. Not the wind. Not ghost stories. Real, human whispers. The blood must flow. The sacrifice is not complete. He is coming back. Sarah ignored the rumors, until it started happening to her. The mark of the pastor. It began with her dreams. Every night, she saw herself back in the underground chamber, staring at the burning altar. She heard footsteps behind her. She turned. And there he was. Pastor Emmanuel. But his face was melted, burned from the fire, his eyes nothing but black holes. Sarah, he whispered, you didn't finish it. She would wake up gasping for air, drenched in sweat. But the worst part. The pain. Every morning, when she looked in the mirror, she saw deep red scratches across her arms, marks that hadn't been there before. Like something was clawing at her while she slept. The return of the followers. Sarah wasn't the only one suffering. One by one, the former church members started acting strangely. Mama Deborah, the pastor's surviving wife, was found walking barefoot in the streets at night, muttering prayers to the sky. Ibuka, the church worker who had helped Chinedu, was seen sitting in front of the ruins, laughing to himself for hours. A young girl, Amora, woke up screaming one night, saying she saw the pastor standing in her room. The town's fear grew. Some said the pastor had never died. Some said his spirit still roamed, hungry for revenge. And then, the first death happened. The first death. It was Mama Deborah. She was found in her small house, kneeling in front of a burning candle. Her lips were dry, her eyes wide open in eternal terror. On the floor beside her was a Bible, its pages soaked in blood. And on her forehead, written in something dark and thick, were the words, "The church never dies." The town erupted in panic. And Sarah knew, it wasn't over. The evil had survived, and this time, it would not stop until every last one of them was dead. Sarah was tired of being afraid. She had tried to run. She had tried to fight. She had tried to ignore the whispers, the nightmares, the warnings. But now, Mama Deborah was dead. And the message on her forehead was clear: the church never dies. Sarah had to end this. The gathering. The entire town was terrified. Nobody went near the ruins of Divine Grace Ministries anymore. The market women refused to walk past it. Evil still lives there, they whispered. Children told stories of shadowy figures seen moving at night. And worst of all, the former church members had started gathering again. Sarah saw them herself, one night, standing near the burnt remains of the church. Silent. Still. Dressed in white. Their heads bowed as if they were praying to something or someone. Sarah's stomach twisted, because she recognized some of them. These were people who had lost everything when the truth about the pastor was exposed. Now, they wanted him back. The blood moon. That same night, a blood moon rose over the town. A deep red glow filled the sky. And then, the screams began. Sarah was in her house when she heard the first one. A woman's voice, piercing the night air. Then another. And another. Until the whole town was awake and running. She grabbed the flashlight and rushed outside. And what she saw made her blood turn to ice. The dead woke again. People were collapsing in the streets, shaking violently. Some of them screamed the pastor's name. Some of them laughed like maniacs. And some were whispering prayers with blood pouring from their eyes. Sarah's heart pounded. What is happening? Then she saw Ibuka. The young church worker stood in the middle of the street, his eyes rolled back, his lips moving in silent prayer. Sarah ran to him, shaking him. Ibuka. Ibuka, what's wrong? He slowly lifted his head, and she screamed. Because his face wasn't his anymore. It was Pastor Emmanuel's. The voice from the grave. Ibuka grabbed Sarah's wrist. His grip was ice cold. You cannot stop me, Sarah. His voice was not his own. It was deeper. It was demonic. It was Pastor Emmanuel. Sarah's entire body trembled. You're dead. Ibuka's lips curled into a sick smile. Am I? Sarah yanked her hand free, stumbling back. People around her were crying, screaming, fainting. And then, in the distance, she saw them, the followers in white. And they were walking toward her. The sacrifice must be completed. Sarah ran. She didn't know where she was going, but she ran. She could hear their footsteps behind her, hear their voices chanting. The blood must flow. The sacrifice is not complete. Bring her to the altar. Sarah's breath came in ragged gasps. They were coming for her. And she knew, if they caught her, she would not live to see the morning. Sarah ran as fast as her legs could carry her. Behind her, the followers of Divine Grace Ministries pursued her like hunters chasing their prey. They were chanting, their voices blending into a nightmare hymn that echoed through the town. The blood must flow. The sacrifice is not complete. Bring her to the altar. Sarah's lungs burned, her legs ached, but she couldn't stop. Because if she did, she knew they would drag her back to the ruins. And she would never leave alive. The altar of the dead. Somehow, she found herself running toward the church ruins. The burnt skeleton of Divine Grace Ministries loomed in the moonlight, its charred walls still standing like a haunted graveyard, a place where fate had been twisted into evil. Sarah stopped, chest heaving, her mind racing. Why was she here? Why was she running straight into their trap? And then, she saw him. The pastor returns. A figure stood in the center of the ruins. Tall. Clothed in white. His face was hidden by shadows. But Sarah knew who it was. Pastor Emmanuel. Sarah, his voice was smooth, deep, almost loving. You cannot escape your fate. She clenched her fist. You're dead. He stepped forward, his features becoming clearer under the blood-red moon. And Sarah's heart nearly stopped. because his face was burned beyond recognition. His skin melted and charred. His eyes were hollow black pits. "You took my church," he whispered. "But you cannot take my power." Sarah felt something cold move through her veins. A dark presence surrounded the air. The ground beneath her shook, and suddenly, hands burst from the earth. The dead rise again. One by one, bodies clawed their way out of the dirt. The pastor's victims. Sister Grace. Chinedu. Mom Nkechi. Their faces were twisted in agony, their eyes lifeless. But they were moving. Sarah screamed as they crawled toward her. And behind them, the pastor's followers in white stood, watching, waiting. They wanted her to join the dead. They wanted her to complete the ritual. The final stand. Sarah's mind raced. She had to stop him. She had to end this evil forever. She looked around, what could she do? And then, she remembered. The fire. The only thing that had ever truly hurt Pastor Emmanuel. She reached for the cross necklace around her neck, the one she had stopped believing in. She gripped it tightly, whispered a prayer, and then she ran straight at him. Pastor Emmanuel's burned lips curled into a smirk. "It's over, child." Sarah lunged forward and slammed the cross against his forehead. The reaction was instant. "No!" He screamed as the cross burned into his skin, smoke rising from his flesh. The ground shook violently, cracks spreading beneath their feet. Sarah stumbled back as the dead collapsed, their bodies turning to ash. The followers screamed, their eyes turning white as if their souls were being ripped away. And Pastor Emmanuel, he fell to his knees, his body burning from the inside out. His final words were a whisper of rage. "This is not the end." And then, he was gone. The curse is broken. Or is it? The ruins of Divine Grace Ministries crumbled. The town woke up from its trance. The haunted whisper stopped. And for the first time in a long time, Sarah felt free. She left the town that same night, never looking back. But deep inside, she knew, evil like Pastor Emmanuel never truly dies. It waits. It watches. And one day, it will return, the end.